Hey guys, your Tormentor here. Okay, and here we go. Now I'm going to be giving my thoughts on Spider Man No Way Home. Yeah, so just a word of warning here. As usual, when I talk about new releases, this video is going to contain some big, and I do mean big spoilers. So it's probably wise of you not to watch this video until you have actually seen the movie because I am going to be talking about some big spoilers in this video. So just a word of warning to all of you. Yeah. So so today I did go to see the movie, and as you can see, I even went in style for it. Yeah, and I actually did see this movie in IMAX. So this was the very first movie that I actually have seen in IMAX. Yeah, I figured just since this was such a huge movie, it made sense to see it the best way I possibly could, and so I went to see it in IMAX today. And I gotta say, oh my gosh, this movie was absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, this movie just had so much hype surrounding it. Like, all the rumors that were surrounding it, and just like with what the trailer showed, and everybody was just like so looking forward to this movie, including me. Like, I was just like awaiting this day with like so much anticipation. And this was just like such a freaking amazing movie. Yeah. So of course, in this movie, like it really does like pick up like right where Far From Home left off with Mysterio revealing Spider-Man's true identity to the world. Yeah. And then we do see like how it really does like change Peter's life as the movie starts because he's just like getting so much additional unwanted attention, and people are just kind of labeling him as like a devil in disguise and a monster and all this stuff. The only ones that really do know the real things are Peter, Ned, MJ, and Aunt May. They're the only ones that do know the real story. But because Mysterio revealed Spider-Man's identity and made it look as if Spider-Man actually killed him, Peter's just become just he's just become like a very just despised person. Yeah, yeah. So of course, like if you saw the trailer, you know that Peter did go to Doctor Strange to have the see if like Doctor Strange could undo Mysterio revealing his identity to everyone. And Doctor Strange like does perform like a spell, of course, to try to make it so that everybody forgets Peter Spider Man. But Peter end up sabotaging the spell, and then it eventually just leads to just the spell just like going wrong, and then if you saw the trailers, like you know what this leads to. Just like the multiverse, as they said, is breaking loose. So then, a bunch of villains from just the other Spider-Man films do like start to appear in here. Like there's Doc Ock, the Green Goblin, Electro, Sandman, and the Lizard. Yeah, and so throughout the movie, like just Peter is like at first Doctor Strange just wants Peter to just like capture all of them, and so he can send them back to their own dimensions. But then when Peter does learn like how like each one of them like do end up like dying at some point, he really does like want to stop Doctor Strange from sending them back, and he does like try to actually help them to just change like the help them like kind of like change them and just like make like cure them of what has made them evil, so they won't end up dying. And then eventually like it ends up going wrong, and then we do like kind of see that there we do well then from there, then this is where like this movie really does like take a turn, and we do get some pretty shocking twists here. Yeah. People have really been like loving this movie. Like on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 94% and a surprising 99% audience score. Pretty much everybody has been loving this movie. so far. I mean, of course, like it just got released officially just a couple of nights ago, but yeah, it's just been receiving like so much love, and yeah, I mean, rightfully so. I mean, this was just like such a great movie. I mean, I did watch a Doug Walker's December review for this movie that he did make just a few days ago. Yeah, and he was saying like how when he talked about like the other two MCU Spider-Man movies with Homecoming and Far From Home, how like he said that like how he felt that like those movies were kind of like just like starting it off very slow with Spider-Man, and they were like slowly leading towards just like this like real big Spider-Man story, which does like culminate in this film. And I guess that is one way of looking at it because yeah, while like Homecoming and Far From Home are like really great movies. Like their stories really are not like anything like totally like a like well they're not like really anything like that big. They're just kind of like stuff that is slowly starting to kind of like a show like how much Spider-Man has like starting to evolve since like Tony Stark recruited him. Because yeah, when we do see him like at first like in Homecoming after like the stuff in Captain America Civil War, it shows how he is still kind of like learning how to be like a true like a hero amongst like the city, and how he does still like have had he still had some stuff to learn, and it like led to all the stuff with like him really just like going too far doing something that he wasn't ready to do, and Tony getting angry at him and taking his suit and all that. Yeah then in Far From Home, how like after of course it was set after the events of Endgame, and I showed like how now how Peter was basically like a new generation Avenger, pretty much like now like basically like being expected to follow in the footsteps of Tony Stark. How like he really was trying to really do the best he could, but at the same time like there was still like he still learned that like he really was still like couldn't really like be in Iron Man's shoes, and he just learned how he's not really like meant to be that. He's just meant to be Spider Man and do the best he can. Yeah, then that's when we do get to see him now here in No Way Home. Yeah, and then yeah, and this time now, like this is where like it really just get very big, like with everything that it's been leading towards, like the stuff with like him and MJ now that they are a couple, and yeah, just seeing like how much like he has, how far he's come now ever since like he's like first appeared in Captain America: Civil War. And I do think that like this is like was really like the Spider-Man movie that I think probably is going to be the one that really people will really do look at as like a truly like big Spider-Man movie in the MCU with like a true like big story like this. And yeah, and it is done like very very well. And like this movie really did seem to really like do a good balance of just like doing like pretty much like putting like every like type of like every bit of like elements into this movie, because yeah, of course like the Spider-Man movies have like always kind of like been based on like they're either like very like dramatic movies, like especially like with the with like all the Spider-Man movies before Spider-Man was in the MCU, because yeah, like with the Sam Raimi trilogy and the Amazing Spider-Man movies, like they were like more had more of a dramatic tone to them. And with the previous two Spider-Man movies, with the Homecoming and Far From Home, they really have like had been more like lighthearted and kind of like more comedic than the other ones were. So there were like a so Marvel's really like giving Spider-Man kind of like a different take on in films than a different tone on films with these two MCU movies. Yeah, but here, like this, really just seems to have elements of all of it, because yeah, some moments are funny, some moments are dramatic, some moments are like really heavy, some moments are just like really sad, especially like one scene in the movie in particular, which I will like talk about. Yeah, and just like some epicness, especially like in the last third or so of the movie. Well, I don't know if I really want to say like the last third, but maybe like in the second half is where it starts to get like really epic. Yeah. But yeah, it just really does a good job, really just like balancing like all the elements to make a film that just really just seems to have it all. And yeah, it is just like does such a good job of like really giving the balance out. Yeah. So just what can I really say about this movie? Just I really don't want to really ruin the movie for a lot of people. But yeah, just yeah, it really is just like a really really good movie, and I really do think that it really did live up to the hype that everybody was giving it. So yeah, so I really would have to say I think this is probably like in the top three MCU movies now. Yeah, I really do think that maybe now that Endgame may actually have some competition now in terms of epicness. As far as why, I'm going to talk about later. But yeah, it just yeah, this really just really did seem to be like just one of the big movies that it really is showing how like just even though how now that what Marvel was leading up to for like a decade is now over, they can still like put out some like big epic movies like this one. So yeah, so I just don't even know what else to say. Just it was just like such an epic movie, and I am just really glad that I did see this in IMAX. All right, so I guess I'll just start to talk about the premise of this movie. Yeah. So as I said, like it basically like picks up right where Far From Home ended with Mysterio revealing Spider-Man's identity to everybody. Yeah, yeah, and just like how like Far From Home cut away before Peter said, "What the fuck." Yeah, in this move, like right here, like Peter just say it again, but rather than cutting away, they just like have a like a car horn like censoring him this time. Yeah, yeah, and then once his like identity was revealed, like MJ couldn't believe it, and then just absolutely everybody was just like questioning why MJ's with Spider-Man, and then just like berating Spider-Man and all this stuff. And Peter tried to get away, but yeah, there was just like no getting away. Even like at his home, like with Happy and Aunt May there, like everybody was still just like everybody around was just like looking and staring at his home, and yeah, even like helicopters were like a flying over his home and all this stuff. So yeah, so Peter was just like absolutely screwed. Yeah. Yeah, and we do have a J.K. Simmons back as Jameson. Yeah, it shows like he's given like more stories in the Daily Bugle, we're really like talking about like Spider-Man and all this stuff. Yeah, so I'm glad that they did like give J.K. Simmons a bigger part in here. He's still like not really like a main role, and he's like really not like the same sort of Jameson that we did see in the Raimi trilogy. But yeah, it's still J.K. Simmons as Jameson. So I mean, what is there to complain about? Like he's the best thing about the Spider-Man series in general. So yeah, who's gonna complain? Yeah, and it shows then how Peter, Aunt May, MJ, and Ned are like interrogated by the Department of Damage Control about everything. Yeah, and then eventually Peter then like all the charges are dropped against him due to his lawyer, which ended up being Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. Yeah, so and it even had a Charlie Cox, is that his name? Yeah, Charlie Cox actually reprising the role from the Netflix series. So yeah, so it was cool that they actually finally did put him in an MCU movie now. So yeah, so it's cool that like they now like acknowledge that like it is like can like the Daredevil Netflix series was like canon to like these the MCU. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it shows how like just Peter, Aunt May, MJ, and Ned are still like just like still like getting like so much negative publicity, and it even shows at school it's not the same for Peter because yeah, everybody like all his like all the students are still like just giving him all the unwanted attention. And yeah, even the teachers were still like giving Peter some unwanted attention too. So yeah, so due to like just all this negative reception that Peter was getting, like it showed that like it, MJ and Ned were also suffering from it because yeah, like it shows like now that how Peter, Ned, and MJ are like looking at colleges and the colleges that they apply to, they end up like all getting rejected from each college that they apply at, including the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Yeah. So yeah. So and Peter knew that it wasn't fair for MJ and Ned to get treated the same way that he is, just because they're his friends. And yeah. So yeah. Peter then like went to the sanctorium to ask Doctor Strange for help, and so then he was just asking Doctor Strange if he could make it so nobody like Mysterio never revealed his identity to everybody. And at first, Doctor Strange was just saying how like uh, like he really can't do it since he doesn't have the time stone anymore. But then he remembered that there was like a spell that he could um, use that could make people forget that he's Spider Man. So yeah, so then uh, and as Peter and Doctor Strange went down to for Doctor Strange to attempt to cast the spell, as he was just like chanting the spell and just saying how like everybody would forget that he's Spider-Man. Peter then like was starting to ask like if MJ, Ned, and Aunt May could still retain their memories of Spider-Man. But yeah, as Doctor Strange was just like continuing to attempt to cast the spell, Peter just kept interrupting, and then it eventually just led to the spell ending up being corrupted and just like get so out of control. But then yeah, then eventually Doctor Strange like contained it. He did, but yeah, it just like showed that like just yeah, you really didn't know what had happened and happened, yeah. And then yeah, then eventually like after like a Peter and well yeah, then when Peter, MJ, and Ned were like then all just like sitting together talking about like how their applications were rejected. It did, yeah. But I guess I should also mention that, like, because of like all the attention Peter was getting as being Spider-Man, Happy then decided to well, let Peter and Aunt May stay with him. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but anyway, getting back to this, yeah. Then yeah. Then when like Ned told Peter that there was an administrator on her way to the airport. Peter then like tried to go after the administrator and dressed as Spider Man. But then, as he was like attempting to talk to the administrator, then like we heard it like showed like some rubble, like the ground was starting to rumble, and then yeah, then eventually then like we then did see the mechanical arms then emerging, and then we did see the appearance of Doc Ock. Heck yeah, and of course, like it was still like Alfred Molina was reprised his role from Spider-Man 2. Yeah, and even Joe, like when he first appeared, like he was asking Peter what he had done with his machine. So referring to the fusion reactor that he built in Spider-Man 2. So he was asking Peter about that, and then yeah, then he then just started to go after Peter, and then yeah, Peter attempted to fight him, and even like because he was wearing the Iron Spider suit, he then like brought out like the mechanical spider legs, and yeah, and then Doc Ock just said like we got some competition, yeah, and then eventually yeah, then Doc Ock then just overpowered Peter. Then at one point as he grabbed onto like when he grabbed onto Peter, like it. His arm just like ended up like absorbing a piece of the spider armor, which ended up like changing the color of one of the arms. Yeah. And then as Otto was like about to rip up the well after he like ripped nanotechnology from the spider suit as it a bond with the tentacles. Then and as he was about to then kill Peter, then Peter then unmasked, and then that's when like Doc Ock then just said that he's not Peter Parker. Yeah. Then it also showed like because like part of Peter's suit bonded with the mechanical arm, Peter was actually able to like take control of the arms, and he disabled Doc Ock. Yeah, like, yeah. But then yeah, then as like he was like trying to question Doc Ock, then yeah, then we saw the appearance of the Green Goblin. We saw the pumpkin grenade hit, and then we then saw the Green Goblin emerging, and then yeah, and which showed that he was still wearing like the same Green Goblin costume from the Raimi movies. And as he was starting to fly towards Peter, then it showed Peter just ended up being just transported into the sanctum, and then yeah, then Doctor Strange like had a Doc Ock held captive in a holding cell in there, as well as the Lizard from the Amazing Spider-Man there, who which Doctor Strange said that he did find as well. Yeah, and then Doctor Strange then just explained to Peter that due to the spell just being corrupted, eh, it did like it just ended up like bringing in like everybody from every universe, and he just like explained to Peter that it just like captured people from every, every places in the multiverse, from everyone that did know who Spider-Man was. Yeah, yeah. Then he just said how like there are more out there, and so they have to capture them and bring them back. And so he ended up giving Peter like some sort of device that he can use to actually transport the other multiverse people, all the multiverse villains, and it's back into the sanctum. Yeah. And so yeah, Peter will like then like enlisted the help of MJ and Ned to help capture the everyone else. Yeah, and then eventually Peter, while wearing like a different sort of like black suit to kind of like blend into the darkness, as he was looking for more, then he eventually came across the Sandman and Electro, yeah, and yeah, then of course like it was still Thomas Hayden Church and Jamie Foxx reprising their roles from their respective movies, yeah. Though yeah, in this movie like we don't actually see Thomas Hayden Church as a Sandman. Like for most of this movie, it's really just like he's always like just sand. Like we don't see him like in his humanoid form at all. Yeah, and then Electro, oh, like when we do first see him, like he still does kind of like have the blue form that he did in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, though. Yeah, he's kind of like in a holographic form. Yeah. Then eventually, then after like Spider-Man like deflects part of like one of the electric waves. Waves that then like changes his appearance, and then it showed how Max was then restored to his regular humanoid form. Yeah, yeah, and then yeah, then eventually Peter then transported both of them back to the Sanctum, and then it showed like how with like the Lizard, Doc Ock, Sandman, and Electro there, like it showed how like uh Electro like actually did recognize Dr. Connors, like since they were this from the same universe, like he did like remember that it was still a Dr. Connors who was the Lizard, yeah, and then yeah, the Lizard who still was like voiced by Risa Fons, yeah, he like the Lizard actually did ask Max how he like was basically like not like why he looked different, because yeah, he didn't like have the same sort of appearance that he did have like before he actually did become Electro in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like he did like seem to have like just more like a regular appearance, like with normal hair, and there was no gap in his teeth and all that stuff. Yeah, no glasses. Yeah, and what's weird is like there's not actually any explanation given as to why he has a different appearance in his normal humanoid form. Yeah. Yeah, and then Doc Ock also like explained like how since like the Green Goblin was there, he was saying that how he was Norman Osborn, but it can't because he's dead. And yeah, and yeah, then the Sandman also like said how the Green Goblin was dead as well as Doc Ock. Like yeah, since like he was around like after like in Spider-Man 3, he was there. Yeah, so he knew that Doc Ock and the Green Goblin were no longer there. Yeah, and like all of these multiverse villains, like they do actually say that, like, well, it's like not just they've all like been like transported to this universe, like after like they ended up being defeated by their respective Spider-Men. Yeah, actually, like Doc Ock like said how the last thing he remembers was like he was like fighting with Spider-Man, and then it was like when he did a poke the electrical wire, how he punctured that and got like shocked. And that was the last thing he remembered before he was transported to this universe. And Electro also said how last thing he remembers is like when Spider-Man causes overload, and then that's when he ended up in this universe. So yeah, so that's like the explanation given as to like when they actually did like get transported to this universe from their own. Yeah. Then we do like see at one point how Norman like with the Green Goblin helmet off, it showed like the Goblin helmet was talking to him again, and then Norman then eventually ended up destroying it. Yeah, and hell, as Norman was a split from the Green Goblin personality, he then like went to the feast building Aunt May was at, and he was like trying to just talk to Aunt May about being treated, and then Peter then eventually arrived and retrieved him and took him back to the sanctorium. Yeah, yeah, and then Doctor Strange then eventually with all the villains there, and then he ended up like preparing like a spell within a box that can send the villains back to their universes to meet their fates. But yeah, Peter then was like starting to sort of have some compassion for them, saying that they don't want to go back because they'll die. Peter was just saying how they should like cure all their powers and insanity before sending them back because he feels that that could actually prevent their deaths when they return. But yeah, Doctor Strange just said that them dying is their fate. So he was still going to send them back, but then eventually Peter ended up stealing the box, and then it led to like a chase between Peter and Doctor Strange, which then like they ended up in the mirror dimension to fight. But then Peter then eventually just webbed Doctor Strange up and trapped him in the dimension. Yeah. And now with Peter like in control, then he released all the villains and then just brought them back to Happy's apartment. And then it showed how he was like just working on some formulas to cure the all the villains. And then then it showed like he started with Doc Ock, which he did cure with the Stark technology. Yeah. But then eventually, the Green Goblin in a person in persona then just overtook Norman again. And then then after like he just like said like how like there is no way to cure them and that like it's just hopeless or something. Then he eventually then he just then like convinced all the uncured villains to betray Peter, and so then they all ended up escaping. Yeah. And then as Peter then was fighting with the Green Goblin, Peter was like telling Aunt May to run, so Aunt May was trying to run to escape out of the building. But then and then as Peter was fighting with the Green Goblin, then as they were just like right on the right out, like right in about out. Oh gosh, I'm getting tongue tied here. As they were just like right in the lobby of the building. Then they were just like continuing to fight. Aunt May was just kind of like standing off with the Green Goblin as he was fighting Peter. Yeah. Then as like Peter was just like getting beat up by the Green Goblin. Then as Aunt May was just like standing the ground, pretty much like having a standoff with the Green Goblin. Peter was then still like trying to tell Aunt May to run, and then like the Green Goblin then just summoned the glider, and the glider wound up just ramming Aunt May, like just stabbing her in the back, literally. Yeah, and then it showed how like now the Green Goblin was now thing on another appearance with like mostly green, but also with the purple hood, and then he took off. Yeah, then we have like the sad moment here. It's like Aunt May was like just with her like being really injured, like she was telling Peter that he was doing the right thing, and she also said to him that with great power there must also come great responsibility. Yeah. Then as Aunt May was just lying on the floor, she wound up dying. So yeah, it was really sad to see Aunt May die, especially this one. Like Marissa Tomei's Aunt May was the last Aunt May that I expected would die. I mean, she was like the youngest Aunt May out of all of them, and she was the last one that I was thinking would die, but yeah, she wound up dying here. So yeah, it was a sad scene. Like you just see like how hurt and distraught Peter was when Aunt May died. So yeah, just that was a really sad moment. Like I think that this could have been inspired from the PlayStation 4 game, given like how that game ends. So yeah, so maybe this was actually inspired by the PS4 game, which was also sad. But yeah, it was sad here just to Aunt May died. Yeah, yeah. Then like it also showed like how like a Peter when he trapped Doctor Strange in the mirror dimension. It showed that well he also gave Ned like the sling ring from Doctor Strange, which has the ability to create portals. Yeah, and as Ned and MJ were at Ned's grandmother's house or something. Yeah, they like found out about Ant Man. They were just like very upset and felt bad for Peter, and so then they then were trying to locate Peter using the sling ring, and here comes the big part of the movie. As they were trying to locate Peter, as they like opened portals to find Peter Parker, like the first one they opened, they showed Peter Parker, like he was in the Spider-Man suit, but it wasn't Tom Holland in Spider-Man. It showed here that they actually did locate Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Yeah, so yeah, so they found him. Yeah, and in the theater, like when it revealed Andrew Garfield, everybody was just like really cheering for this. Yeah, like even though I didn't like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, like I was pretty like a I was just like stunned to see him. Like I even just like said wow when he appeared. Yeah, and then they also then like tried to like locate Peter again. They opened up another portal, and it wound up being Toby Maguire's Peter Parker. And everybody just like went nuts when he showed up. Yeah, even I let out a like just yelled yes when he appeared. Like just felt like a little kid. You couldn't keep it inside. I just was like so happy to see Toby Maguire back again. Yeah, so the rumors were true. Toby Maguire and Andrew Garfield were in this movie. So yes, just the rumors were true. Yeah, so it really makes me wonder whether like this was actually like what Marvel and Sony were like actually planning from the start, or that's because like they like like heard about like the rumors and everybody was just like really like wanting to see that Marvel and Sony decided to give the people what they want and they actually did make it so Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's respective Spider-Man were in this movie. Yeah, but regardless, they were in this movie and it was just so awesome to see them back. And then it showed like at first how like when Toby and Andrews Peter Parker's like saw each other, like it just showed how they had the same abilities. They shot webs at each other and like dodged each other's webs, and it was just so awesome. Then they saw how Peter was just like mourning on the rooftop of a building, distraught about Aunt May's death, and so then Ned, MJ, and Toby and Andrews Peters then went up there to try to just try to give him some comfort. And then Toby and Andrews Peter Parkers were just talking to Peter, Tom Holland's Peter, how they do like know how he feels with like Toby's Peter was talking to him about how he lost Uncle Ben, and Andrews was talking about how he lost Gwen, and they really do know how Tom's Peter is feeling. Yeah, and they just like encouraged him to really fight in May's honor, just like saying that she didn't die for anything. So then the three Peters along with MJ and Ned, and then all work together to just create cures for the rest of the villains. Yeah, and then as they did, like it would also they were also like talking about like just about like the other characters from their series. Like Ned was asking Toby's Peter, like, does he have a best friend? And he said he did, and of course, like he was referring to Harry. Yeah, and Andrews was also talking about like how Gwen was his MJ. Yeah, just like a whole bunch of stuff, just like a whole bunch of like references to like the other characters from their own series. Then one part I really did like was like at one point Peter did see like how like they had like some like Tom's Peter had a what like the fluid for his web shooters, and then Peter then Toby's Peter Parker then just showed to uh Tom's Peter, Andrew's Peter, Ned, and MJ how his webs are actually part of his mutations and he doesn't use web shooters. So I love that they did that. I was really hoping that they would do something like that to show that Toby's web shooters are actually part of his mutations and he doesn't use web shooters like Andrew and Tom did. Do and everybody was just like just in disbelief how Toby could shoot web without web shooters. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then eventually, they yeah the three Spider-Men then lured Electro, Sandman, and the Lizard to the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, and it showed how Toby and Andrew actually did wear their same Spider-Man suit from their movies, and so it was great to see them wearing like their suits again, like especially when Toby's still wearing like his suit from the Raimi movies. Like I just love that they did bring that one back. Yeah, and I did like that they did at least use Andrew Garfield's better Spider-Man suit, the one from Amazing Spider-Man 2 in this film. Yeah, but yeah, it was great to see them wearing like their respective Spider-Man costumes from their movies. I loved seeing that. Yeah, and then the three of them then did battle with the Electro, Sandman, and the Lizard, and it showed at first how like it really wasn't going too well for them because they really weren't like working very good as a team. Yeah, and the three of them were talking about like how Toby and Andrews Peters don't know how to function as a team, but then Tom spoke up saying that he does know since like he was in the Avengers. And it was funny how like when Tom did mention that he was with the Avengers, Toby and Andrew just like didn't know like what he was talking about. They were just asking what is the Avengers and all that. Yeah. So and then Tom then was just like telling them how to function as a team. Yeah. So the three of them then did work together as a team to bring down those other villains. Yeah, yeah. Then they eventually did. They then just gave them the cures one by one. It showed how a Toby then gave the cure to the Sandman, and it showed how he was restored to a normal humanoid form. The only thing that does kind of bug me about the scene is that when the villains do return to their humanoid form, you can tell it's clearly just stock footage from their own movies that they were in. And like when the Sandman does like turn back to his humanoid form, it's just stock footage from Spider-Man 3. And also when they turn the lizard back into Dr. Connors, it's just stock footage from the Amazing Spider-Man. That's the only thing that does kind of bug me about this. Yeah. And then it showed how Andrew's Spider-Man was also talking with Electro to try to really just like say how he didn't want what happened to Max to happen to him. Then eventually he got cured as well, and then they were able to make amends with each other. Yeah. Then eventually Doctor Strange did get released from the mirror dimension by Ned, and then as Doctor Strange was then about to just undo the spell and send everybody back, then the Green Goblin then appeared here. Yeah. Then he then went after Tom Spider-Man, and yeah, Tom of course like wanted to kill the Green Goblin for being responsible for Aunt May's death. Yeah, Toby, he's a Spider-Man, even told Tom like during the talk that they were having about how they know how Tom Peter feels. He told him that like when he tried to kill who he thought was the guy that killed Uncle Ben, it didn't make anything better. Yeah, but Tom still did want to kill the Green Goblin here. Yeah. Then as they were fighting, then eventually MJ ended up getting knocked off the Statue of Liberty, and as she was falling down, like Tom's Peter then tried to go after her to save her, but yeah, the Green Goblin ended up attacking him and preventing him from saving her. But then we got like just like such a great moment as Andrews as Garfield Spider-Man then swooped down to save MJ. So yeah, so this may be like my favorite moment of Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. Like I think this is my favorite moment with him now as Spider-Man by far. Like it just was such a huge redemption for him. So he could like now do what he failed to do to save Gwen in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. He made sure it didn't happen again here. Yeah. So yeah, so I'm sure like this is something that a lot of people really did see coming with Andrew Garfield saving MJ here. Yeah, I even saw it coming myself. Like I was thinking that this could possibly happen, but just yeah, seeing that he actually did do it was just a really great moment. And yeah, like I said, I think this may be I think Andrew Garfield's best moment as Spider-Man. Like, gosh, this was just like such an awesome moment right here. Yeah. Then Tom's Spider-Man then was still fighting with the Green Goblin. And then he eventually then like beat the Green Goblin down, and then he was going to use the glider to kill him. But then Toby stepped in to stop Tom from doing it. But then, as he did, then the Green Goblin then just stabbed Toby from behind, injuring him. Then, as he was about to um then kill, well, then going after Tom again. Then eventually, they were able to inject Norm Norman with the cure and restore his sanity. Yeah, and I guess I should also mention here that something that I thought was like kind of creative, the way that they like all three Spider-Man knew like which one they like was who, how they would be referring to each other. Like they were having it be how uh, Tom Holland's Peter or Spider Man was Peter 1, Toby's was Peter 2, and Andrew's was Peter 3. So a clever way to kind of just like have some distinction so they could like clarify which one they were referring to. So yeah, I thought that was not a interesting way of like having some distinction here. Yeah, but yeah, then they were able to restore his sanity. Yeah, yeah, and I guess yeah, I forgot to also mention here that like when the Green Goblin first appeared, he also ended up destroying the um the box spell, which ended up rupturing the barrier that was separating the universes. Yeah, and after they cured Norman, then like the portal was like just like starting to really open up, and Doctor Strange was like trying to maintain the barrier, but then he was just like then started to say that like everybody was starting to come through and he can't stop them. Then Peter then just like tried to like just see if there was any way they could stop this from happening. And then yeah, then Doctor Strange then just explained to Peter that the only way that they could really stop this is to actually like do a new spell. But he also told Peter that the only spell they could do is like the spell will actually like erase not only everyone's memory of him being Spider-Man, but erase the memory of Peter like totally. Like nobody would even like know about Peter's existence, and it would be as if he never did exist. So yeah. So then, like, despite the fact that like how that would really just erase Peter from history, Peter then and agreed to it and asked Doctor Strange to do it. So then, yeah, Peter then said his goodbyes. First, he said goodbye to Toby and Andrew, thanking them for their help, and then he went to Ned and MJ, just telling them what was going to happen. But he also told them that he he after this spell he would actually go back to them to really just reintroduce himself, so they would still will know each other. Yeah. So then yeah, and it was kind of like a really it was a sad moment because yeah, MJ was like upset about it and Ned and but yeah, they said their goodbyes and then Doctor Strange then cast the spell and then as a result like all the everybody ended up like returning to their respective universes and we just like saw them like slowly like fade away. And yeah, but it also showed how everyone's memory of Peter was wiped away. Yeah. And then after the spell was cast, then it showed how, like, Peter then tried to reintroduce himself to MJ and Ned, but then he was like gonna read off something that he wrote to reintroduce himself. But then, as he was starting to talk to them, then he just decided not to, and then he just like decided to just let's keep them safe and just live the new life that he's now having. Yeah. Then it showed him paying a visit to Aunt May's grave, and Happy also appeared, and of course, like Happy, of course, didn't have any memory of Peter anymore either. And then then he was just like asking Peter how he knew Aunt May, and he was just saying through Spider Man. Yeah, and so then yeah, Peter was just inspired to carry on without the identity, and so then, yeah, then it just like then ended with Peter now moving into another apartment, and it showed that he now did make like a new Spider-Man suit without any of the like any like of the Stark tech or anything, just his own like Spider-Man suit without any tech on it. Yeah, Yeah, and it just now showed that he was just resuming his superhero to Spider-Man. And this new suit was actually pretty cool because while it was a simple suit, it does like have more of a resemblance to the comics because the blue parts of the suit are like a more light blue than the ones we've seen before. So I like how they did make this like more comic book oriented. Yeah, and that's how the movie ended. Yeah. So my only question now is, where do they go with the Spider-Man from here? Because yeah, I mean, with him, like, just like with all the memories of him, like, just being wiped away from everybody now, just it seems now Marvel and Sony are back to square one with Spider-Man in the MCU. Like, what are they gonna do with him now? So I really don't know what they're planning to do next with him. Yeah, but then yeah, then we had this mid-credit scene, which I think a lot of people are probably not going to be happy about. Yeah, in the mid-credit scene, then we do see Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock and Venom here. Yeah, of course, like in the mid-credit scene of Let There Be Carnage, we did like see that Eddie and Venom ended up being transported into this universe. Yeah, but yeah, they were just talking about how they should find Spider-Man, but then as it showed how Doctor Strange's spell also ended up sending them back to their universe. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, it also showed like when they were sent back, like part of the symbiote was left behind. Yeah, so yeah, so this is like I guess this is setting up for like a new Venom to be made in the MCU. Yeah. So yeah, I think some people are really not gonna like this because I mean, with that mid-credit scene of Let There Be Carnage, like people were really wanting to see Tom Hardy's Venom and Tom Holland's Spider-Man cross over with each other, but yet they just brought Tom Hardy's Venom in to do this. So I think a lot of people are probably gonna be pissed off about this. Yeah, but then after the credits, then it showed like a little preview for the next Doctor Strange movie. Yeah, and this is we'll talk more about this whole multiverse stuff. Yeah, yeah, but so what can I say? Just yeah, Spider-Man: No Way Home. Like it had some sad moments in it, but it also had some epic moments. And it was just so really great to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back. Like they actually did follow up on the rumors, and just seeing the three Spider-Men together, which is so epic. And I didn't even talk about how they actually did use some music tracks from the the other Spider-Man series in here. Like they did use like the original Spider-Man Danny Elfman theme in here, and they did use like a couple other music tracks from the Raimi trilogy, and they also did use like the Peter Story music track, like young Peter story from the Amazing Spider-Man. I want to point here too. So yeah, so it was great that they actually did use like some of the older music tracks as well. Yeah. So what can I say? I mean, just yeah, seeing the three Spider-Man come together, like that was just so epic to see. And plus, yeah, it just must have been so great for Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to once again don on their Spider-Man suits to come back one more time. And yeah, and people were so happy to see it. Yeah. So yeah, so in a way, like I think that for some people this will probably be more epic than when all the Avengers finally did come together in Endgame. Yeah, like I said, just for me, like I'm really not sure which one I really would say was like more epic because now declaring which one is better is a little difficult to decide because yeah, just because the epicness is done in just like two different ways. Because with Endgame, with all the Avengers coming together, it really was just the culmination of what everything Marvel was leading up to for like over the last decade to that point. Yeah, so it really was epic to finally just see all the Avengers that we've been seeing in that time just finally coming together to take down Thanos. Yeah. While here it is epic to really see Toby, Andrew, and Tom Holland all together, it really is like really comes down more to fan service. Like it's not really something they were really building up to. It's really more fan service for everybody that has been like watching these movies ever since they started. Started. So yeah, so I really think like the epicness is just done two different ways that it really is just hard to really declare which one is truly better. But regardless, yeah, it is still epic to really just see like Toby and Andrew finally coming together, especially like for people like me who have been like watching Spider-Man movies since the first Sam Raimi movie. Like I've been around for the whole thing. Like for people like me that have been around for the whole thing, it really just is was really epic to really see them back again, and just yeah, it really was just like it just felt so epic to finally just see something like this be done. So yeah, so it really just is done in two different ways. It really is just hard to really say which one is truly more epic. Yeah, but regardless, yeah, this was still just like really just such a great movie, and it was just like so freaking awesome to see three Spider-Man all together. So yeah, so the best way I can really just sum this movie up is go see it. Like especially like if you're a Spider-Man fan, like if you're a Spider-Man fan, if you do like the movies, then you will probably end up falling in love with this. So yeah, so definitely check this movie out, and I would definitely say it's in the top three MCU films. All right, so yeah, and I think that it is safe to say this is probably going to wind up being everybody's favorite Spider-Man film. All right. So yeah, so I guess this is all I can really say about it. All right, so yeah, so this has already been like a 15-minute video. So yeah, so I think I've just said enough about it. So yeah, so these are my thoughts on Spider-Man: No Way Home. So yeah, so I hope you guys did enjoy what I had to say about this video. I hope I made it worth your while. Yeah, and so yeah, and so stay tuned because yeah, now for the next week I'll just be finishing off these reviews with like Christmas reviews all through Christmas next Saturday. All right, but yeah, but I hope you guys did enjoy this video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.